Good morning, Claire Daly, Stampin' Up demonstrator in Melbourne. Today I wanted to show you the Nature's Painting Kit and to also give you some tips about using watercolour pencils for colouring stamped images. So let's have a look at the kit to start with. So when you get it in the box, you will get this beautiful little colouring book with images already printed onto watercolour paper. So you get 2 of each image and there's 12 different images, and then at the back you get a couple of you also get some watercolour paper that is empty so that you can use to stamp your own images. You could also use the reverse of some of the ones that are there if you didn't like the pattern on them. So you get that in your box. You get 8 watercolour pencils in a variety of colours. So let's have a look at those colours. You get these colours. So some greens, pinks, yellows, blues, greys, browns. So you get a nice combination there. And then you also get a water painter. And I'll show you how to use that in a tick. And then you also get your instruction booklet, which has got some nice ideas about how to colour various, images and how you can actually combine colours as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. So I'm going to tell you a couple of other things that I like to keep handy when I'm watercolouring. One is paper towel, because sometimes you get too much water. And I tend to use the water painter you can. Now, with these water painters, they open the different way to what we'd be used to. You can fill them up with water, and some people choose to do that. And there's little marks on here that say push, so you squeeze that and the water comes out. I tend to like to do them. It's reverse, it's so crazy. I tend to like to dip it in water though. I find I have more control that way. And then I have the paper towel if I want to just remove a little bit of the water. The other thing which is very handy when we're using the watercolour, when we're using the water painters and watercolouring, is a little spritz bottle. Sometimes you might want to spritz the image that you're watercolouring to have a little bit more water laid down on there to start with, which just makes the colour go a little bit further. So this is the ones that we're talking about in the kit. I want to show you some other products that we have that are also handy for watercolouring. So you can actually buy the water painters in a pack of 3. And so you get 3 different, the nib in this one is the fine one, but you can actually buy them in a pack of 3 where you get fine, thick and a medium one. So there's those. And some people prefer to use blender pens as well to have more fine control over when combining when adding water to the watercolour pencils to render them, we call it. So you can buy blender pens in a pack of 3 as well. So basically they're just like little pens that have got water in the tip, and you can use them to, and we'll show you how we use those in a tick. And then the other thing is, if you're stamping your own images to watercolour, you'll need Stays On, because and if you're using water, you need to have a solvent-based ink. So only stamp in Stays On for anything you want to watercolour. Or the other option is you can emboss it as well. So embossing in white or gold, black, whatever colour you want, and you can then watercolour. And our Fluid 100 watercolour paper is the watercolour paper that I would recommend. So you get 5x7 sheets already cut up there, and generally half or even a quarter is enough to use for most images if you're adding them to a card. So they're in the catalogue. And the other thing you can get is extra sets of watercolour pencils. Now we've got 2 different sets in the catalogue. if you're going to buy one of them, I would recommend you buy the one that's got the white and the blacks and the greys. The reason for that is you can use those for additional shading, which comes in really handy. So that's a couple of the colours will be duplicates, but this is a really good add-on to if you want to start using watercolour pencils. Okay, let's have a look just at some of the images. Now I've ripped out a couple of images here that we're going to be used because you can just take them off the pack. So one of them I have already used, and the reason for doing that is I want to show you how you can then go on and add other colour, and this one is straight out of the pack. Excuse me if you hear strange noises, that was just my crazy cat. So the very basic way to use the watercolour pencils is to just don't add colour all over, just add colour at the base, like so, and you can almost add more later, which is what you want to be doing. So that, and then I would add some along those lines that are already showing as well. So like that, and then we get our water painter, dip it in the water or otherwise squeeze, and then you just use that to pull the colour, and this is what we call rendering the colour. So you can use that to pull the colour up. Now I need a little bit more water. This is where the Now I'm just going to see if we're close enough for you to be able to get a really good view of that. Now, if it looks different, that's because when I changed the view last time, the video actually stopped and I hadn't realised. So I went through and did the whole video, the rest of the video, and it had stopped. So I'm coming back to do that bit again. So that's why your pieces of paper look different than they were. But we got as far as showing you how to draw the colour out on this one, but we didn't show you how to do it with a blender pen. So I'm going to do that bit again. It's very similar. Getting one of the blender pens, and instead of using the water painter, you just pull that colour out with the blender pen. Now, it's personal preference, really. Some people prefer to use the water painters, which is me. Other people prefer the precision that you get with the blender pens. So it's really entirely up to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'll show you some of the flower bits that I've already created there. So exactly the same way for the flowers. It's doing the darker bits towards the bottom of the flower and where those lines are, and then you would come in with your water painter and you would pull that colour up, and you just, this is called rendering, and you're just adding the water to it and pulling the colour around and making it look less scribbled and more sort of like painting, and blending those colours together. Now what you can do is, if you get that, it dries and you think, I want to add a little bit more colour to that, which is, so this one here that I did in the video that I thought I was recording, what I'll do is add a little bit more colour in that. I might actually use the, where's the plummy colour? Oh, here it is. So say if I wanted to add a little bit more of this plummy colour down the bottom, because I want it to be a little bit darker, I can come in with that. Because the other one's dry now, so it's just like doing it from scratch. But then we come in and we can add those additional colours in there as well. You can get a little bit extra shadows, or you can could be combining the colours by adding some extra in there. So that's how you sort of like layer the colour. So colour, render with the blender pen or the painter, and then let it dry and come back on afterwards. Now, something else I want to show you is if you wanted to combine some colours. So say you wanted to combine a bit of pink and a bit of the, so this is Melon Mambo, I think. No, Flirty Flamingo, and a bit of the, I think this is Pumpkin Pie. So you can actually combine those to get a different colour altogether. So all you do is scribble that on a scrap piece of paper or a piece of card, combine those, and then use that as your colour to paint directly on. Need a little bit more water there, I think. If you do it on a non-porous surface, like your glass mat or a plate even, or a block, you're going to get a lot more colour out of your, add a little bit more. You're going to get a lot more colour out of it because it's not going to be sinking into this paper as well. So probably a bit more orange than I wanted, but we'll do a bit at the top. See how I've been adding on those colours there. So you're getting different colour again. So that's how you can combine the colours. Now, the other thing I want to show you is how to do some of these big solid areas. Now, there's a few different ways you can do that. You can, in fact, I did it on here last time. You can actually use a block again, or a bit of cardboard, an old bit of paper, and you can actually not have any pencil lines at all. So you can pick it up off here, and then you can put it directly onto there. So that's just painting. It's not actually adding it on it, and not actually using any pencil lines onto the actual picture. Or the other way you can do it is to actually apply very lightly, but do it on its side. The reason I say that is if you press too hard on the watercolour paper, you will get divots in the paper, and they're a bit harder to blend out. So you don't want that to happen. So just come in then very lightly on its side, and again, too much water, which is why I like having the paper towel there, and blending that way. Personally, I like to do it the first way. I think you just don't get those lines. You've got a little bit more control, but it's up to you as to the look that you like. I like the really watery look. What else am I going to show you here? Oh, another way to use your pencils is you can actually apply, say if you've got a really small area like I was doing in these areas, so we'll do some of these, is you can actually apply your pencil directly, your water painter, directly to the pencil, and then you can come in and just colour those. So if you're just wanting to add a bit of accent colour, or you've got a very small area, that's a good way of getting that colour on there as well. So I showed you how to do the big areas, showed you how to do the plain colouring, I showed you how to do the adding on additional colouring. Okay, so what I might do is just show you exactly the same process. You use exactly the same process if you've stamped something onto watercolour paper. So this is the Fluid 100 watercolour paper that I showed you before. Stamped in stays on, because whenever you've got water, you need a solvent-based ink. So it's exactly the same process, adding in some colour just in some of the areas. Don't colour the whole thing, or you're just going to get a completely blue bird, and then use that to blend out the colours. Super easy. And the Fluid 100 paper is awesome. And this is watercolor paper, but it's not the Fluid 100. This is 100% cotton, and it just blends out really, really well. So you can see the effects you get with that one. And then you can come on and do different colors. If you've got colors really close to another one, let the first color dry, the first image dry, because that way you won't get the bleeding in as much, which we don't want. Now I also showed you that I also said about shadows. So I want to show you a little bit about creating some shadows. I've already done some on this on the last one, but we'll do some over here. Just a matter of using your basic grey pencil and just very lightly, again on the side where you want the shadows to be, and then using, coming in with your water painter and rendering those out as well. So you're just getting a really subtle grey shadow there on the side. Just I think it just really finishes the image as well. So there's that. Now with your white coloured pencil, getting a bit away here, but if you watercolour directly onto, say, crumb cake cardstock, you can see you get sort of like a really murky, you don't get the true colour. Whereas if you use your white watercolour pencil underneath it, so that was the one that came in, it doesn't come in the kit, that's the one that came in the basic pack of the watercolour pencils, the one that has 13 pencils in it in the online store. So if you come in and you use that watercolour, the white pencil first, colour the whole image, and then you add a little bit of your colour, and then you colour on top of that, you get a much truer colour, because you've got that white underneath that's sort of adding as like almost a primer. And I just think it's a lot brighter. You can see the difference in the colour there using the same colour. It's a lot brighter and a lot less murky. So that's one of the great ways to be able to use the white watercolour pencil as well. Just check we're still recording. Yes, we are, yay. So yeah, that's another use of your white pencils and your grey, which is why I think they're really useful ones to have as well. So I'll link the water painters, I'll link all of the products, the StazOn, the watercolour paper, the extra pencils and stuff down below the video, so you've got those links there. So let me show you a few samples that I have done in various ways. So this one here is using colouring onto darker. So what I had done here is I've used the blending brushes to create a blended piece, and then I stamped the bird onto there, and then I used the white pencils to get that real pop of colour over the top. So that one definitely needed, and I've used blue, a little bit of green, but I've also used some early espresso there on the ends for the bird. So that's one of the ways I've done that. Actually, I didn't show you how to do a watercolour wash. For watercolour wash, you can use, I generally use the larger water painter. So that's the one that comes in the kit of 3. You get a medium, a large, and a fine tip. So it's just a matter of colouring the area that you want to have the wash. This is really good to put behind, say, a silhouette image, or if you've got some die cuts or some die cut pieces, and then just using lots of water and the large painter and just moving that around a bit, and then you're getting that sort of blue area to go behind, which I often use that. It looks really nice behind trees, behind flowers, when you want just a bit of subtle colour in the background. So that's how to do that with your watercolour pencils. And I'll show you a sample of that. I've popped that behind here, which I've done with, and I've popped some die cuts there. But another way to use water wash is when you emboss an image in white, and then you actually use your watercolour wash over the top to make the colour pop. So I've used one of the colours which is in the designer series paper, and I've really made that pop. These ones, this one here is just, these are both coloured with your watercolour pencils. This is one of the images from the Nature's Painting kit. So I've done balmy blue around the outside. I've used my extra watercolour pencils from the packs, crushed curry and a bit of early espresso, and this one's old olive. Now when you use these images on a card front, you do need to cut them down a little bit because they're a bit too big for our card front, so just keep that in mind. So there's that one, and this one I've just done stamped, and I've used that grey shading there as well, and I've coloured that with watercolour pencils. We've got Melon Mambo, Gorgeous Grape, and Old Olive again. So there's that one. Here's an example of this one I've done with watercolour. I've done with my ink pad, sorry. And what I've done is used lots of different colours of green. There's actually a video on my YouTube channel how to do this one from start to finish in the colouring section. So if you want to get right stuck into this one, you can see, one of the sequences come off. You can see how I've done this one from start to finish. So lots of different greens for succulents, and on the ends just using a little bit of the pink and the purples. And then I've used grey for the pot there. And then I've, before I started, I used before I popped this one on, because that's die cut, I used a watercolour wash as well. This one here, what I did here, this is actually using masking paper. And again, this came from a video on my YouTube channel. So about how to use masking paper. So I've stamped the tent to start with, stamped another one on masking paper and covered that, and then stamped the trees in the background. Then I've come back and I have watercoloured taken the masking paper off and watercoloured the tent so that it appears to be in the front. So I really like how that turned out. Appears to be in the front there. And this one is just watercolouring with inks. Different colours I've used that blend in with the colours that I've used. Balmy blue, and this one's Pretty Peacock, and some crumb cake. And then this one here is very, very loose watercolouring. I deliberately didn't want to stick to the lines. I wanted to just give a really sort of artistic effect. So I've come in and I've just really loosely coloured it. You get a similar type of effect by colouring and spraying over the top. I haven't got an example of that one, but that's another way to get your colours to sort of blend a little bit outside the lines as well. So I hope that has been helpful to show you lots of different ways to use your watercolour pencils. Have a play. There's nothing that can go wrong. You can, the idea is to have a play, and, this lovely colouring book gives you a great opportunity to do that. If you don't like the images on the front, you don't think you'll use it, stamp your own images on the reverse and have a play with them that way as well. And you'll get lots of different images that you can use on your card making and have some nice relaxing time in the process. So thank you so much for watching my video. This is my last video for 2024, I'm pretty sure. So thank you for watching. I'll be back with lots more in 2025 and looking forward to seeing you all then. Thank you.